Hey everybody, two Alpha Gals here. I'm Debbie Nichols.
And I'm Candace Mathis, and you're listening to In the Tall Grass, where we're sharing stories of reinvention, resilience, and rediscovering joy.
Whether it's facing Alpha Gal syndrome or any other redefining chapter of life, we all have to learn how to navigate the journey through the tall grass. So here we go.
So we are super excited today. We have a special guest, Chef Laura Rodriguez, who is a holistic chef, autoimmune warrior, and backyard farmer, and is the creator of the Flare Free Cooking Academy and former celebrity personal chef from Tennessee. She lives there now with her family. So Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I've watched you guys kind of progress, and you actually inspired me to start my own podcast. When I saw that you guys came out with your podcast, I was like, yes, okay, this is the push. I need to do my own. So thank you for all that you do. And yeah, I love you guys.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
We love you too. I mean, you helped us kind of get comfortable with being in front of the camera. Seriously, when we were on your Instagram live cooking class where we shared flare free / Alpha Gal safe food, which was so fun. Fun. Thank you. We just are really, really appreciative and have loved watching you grow and everything that you're doing to help the community as well. So if we can just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what exactly you do with the Flare Free Cooking Academy.
Yeah, so I basically help autoimmune warriors eat anti-inflammatory comfort food that doesn't cause autoimmune flare-ups. So everything that I make is gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, soy-free, and anti-inflammatory. So I don't use any inflammatory cooking oils, no factory farm meats, no farmed fish. And so it kind of, the thing about it, I think that makes it really unique is that it's food that people actually want to eat. It's, it's lasagna, it's meatballs, it's pasta, it's tacos, it's all that food that you grew up knowing and loving, but in a way that doesn't cause inflammation. So that's what I do.
Yeah. And I love that because your Instagram feed makes me drool, honestly. Seeing all of those comfort foods, and it's like, holy cow, I know we're so restricted in how we have to eat. And I know that you have some clients that also have Alpha Gal syndrome. So have you found that challenging to kind of alter that too? Because I know, a lot of times when you're eating more anti-inflammatory, you're also eating probably a little bit more steak or that the types of things that tend, are not safe for us with Alpha Gal.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think what makes my meals unique is that I do mostly chicken, turkey, fish. I do sprinkle in some beef. And the only type of pork I ever use is prosciutto and bacon. And that is something that you can leave out. It's not like a main component of a dish. So most of the meals that I serve are Alpha Gal safe. Most of the recipes I include in my meal plans. And what I started doing last month, which is weird because I've had an Alpha Gal client in my meal plan service since April, and it just never dawned on me to do this because I do this for vegans. I'll make suggestions on each recipe for how to make that dish vegan as well, because I do have some vegan clients. But what I started doing last month was literally going substitute ground chicken for a dish that has ground beef, or substitute emu steak or whatever. So that for folks that are new to dealing with Alpha Gal, luckily my client has had it for a few years. So she's a pro. She knows, okay, if we're doing steak, I'm going to get an emu steak, or if it's, a burger, I'm going to get emu burger, whatever. But I did start adding that little kind of additional bonus substitution for folks like you guys. So yeah.
That's great. And I want to hear about your start, how you got your start in cooking, but you're speaking our language because we're always talking about reinvention, taking the things that we love and trying to make them similar as we can, but safe as well. And so I love to hear that you're coming up with even more ways to do that. But can you tell us, where did you get your start in cooking?
Yeah, so I fell in love with food and cooking from scratch and using like farmers market ingredients when I studied abroad in Italy. And I knew at that time I wanted to go into something in the food industry, but I did not want to go to culinary school. I was in the middle of undergrad. I got like a full tuition 4-year scholarship to go to undergrad. I would not have gone to college if I didn't get that. And so I was like, I can't afford to pay for culinary school, so I need to figure out what I can do. So I actually became a dishwasher in a cooking school. And over 4 years, I moved up the ranks and I became the kitchen manager and then the general manager. And so over the course of 4 years, I listened to hundreds of cooking classes, learned techniques at work, and then practiced them at home. So I went on to work in a restaurant after that. And I did that for a few years. I ran a restaurant. We turned a local wine bar into a wine we turned a wine store into a wine bar with a full like restaurant program. And then I started my own catering company. So that's kind of how it happened.
Nice.
That's really neat too. When you started talking about how you were watching in the culinary school, it made me think of Good Will Hunting. Like you're the Good Will Hunting of the restaurant industry.
Okay, I've never heard that, but I like that.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, and so at what point, I know that you also battle an autoimmune disease. So like at what point can you share with us kind of the progression from like your time in Italy to the time that you discovered your own, health situation or health challenge, and how kind of that led to your discovery of how food was really a healing mechanism for you?
Sure. So when I look back on it now, I can trace back health issues as far as high school, but I didn't know it at the time. And so it wasn't until after I had my daughter, I was the executive chef of a nonprofit that delivers free healing meals to cancer patients. And I was having difficulty lifting bags or containers of food and putting them in their cooler bags for transport. And I was like, there's something wrong with me. Like, there's no reason why I should have this excruciating pain in my elbows and my wrists. I would have to like literally slide the bag down underneath the table and just slide the food into the bags. It was so embarrassing. I was trying not to like let anybody know that I was in such pain. So it was at that time when I was like, okay, there's something wrong with me. I need to figure it out. And so that's when I started to use the food that I was serving cancer patients at work, which was all gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, soy-free, local, and organic. I started to use that food for my family at home. And within 3 months, I was able to reverse that debilitating joint pain. And on top of that, the eczema that I had suffered with for years and the migraines I would get like multiple times a week, every week, completely went away.
Wow.
So it was at that point where I was like, okay, there is something wrong with me. And that's when I realized that food could be used as medicine. And I just slowly progressed to taking it every month a step further and doing something more and digging deeper. And, it was a twisty turvy kind of road. I ended up due to, being a chef is a very stressful job. Being an entrepreneur makes it very easy for you to stretch yourself very thin, say yes to everything, do everything. And so, years of not sleeping enough and working too much. And on top of that, having a small child that doesn't sleep, I ended up with adrenal fatigue. And that also gave me insulin resistance. So I've been through a lot. I have luckily reversed all of that. And now I'm definitely the healthiest I've ever been. But it was certainly a journey to get to where I am today.
It really sounds like it is. And it reminds me a little bit of Candace's story when she talks about, how she adjusted her diet really in this last year and a half. And I watched her change physically, like to my eyes. I don't know that I would have believed it otherwise, but then you're saying the same thing happened, which I think is just beautiful. Right. And, when we talk about 2 alpha gals and our diet, and there are so many foods that we have to avoid, right, to prevent a life-threatening reaction. We can't eat beef and pork and dairy and all these things. And then additionally, we have to watch out for all these byproducts and places where we call them sneaky sources, places where these are hidden. But in addition to our alpha-gal syndrome, Candace and I both have several additional allergies, some of them in the top 9, some of them not. But even some of the things that we don't test allergic to, we recognize how they impact our body. You know, these food sensitivities or intolerances that don't necessarily test positive of an allergy. You know, for example, I don't test positive to have an allergy to gluten, but I avoid it because I know it makes me bloat and I know it makes my joints hurt. So what I'm wondering is if you can talk to us a little bit about anti-inflammatory foods and how, you know, food can be a trigger, you know, for pain and discomfort, even if they aren't specific allergens.
Yeah, you know, I'm not a doctor or a nurse or a dietitian or a nutritionist, but I study all of the leading, you know, information that the top functional medical practitioners put out. So you can, you know, do your own research, but basically what I've learned is that gluten, dairy, sugar, corn, soy, and then a lot of people say eggs as well. I personally don't have an issue with eggs when I eat organic pasture raised eggs. Now, before, when I used to eat the like $1, $2 a dozen white eggs from the grocery store, I'd be in the bathroom almost immediately after eating eggs. So I went a long time without eating them, but now I don't have a problem with it. So if you can avoid those highly inflammatory foods, and then increase your intake of anti-inflammatory foods like vegetables, fruits, anything with omega-3s like walnuts, wild salmon, hemp seeds, flax seeds, things that have polyphenols and vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and all those things, then you'll be in a good position to lessen your inflammation and reduce symptoms like joint pain, brain fog, digestive issues, fatigue, all of those things that can be a byproduct of eating a highly inflammatory diet.
That's great advice. And it's interesting because I used to have the same reaction to eggs and I thought it was just an egg issue until I got my own chickens. And then all of a sudden I can eat their eggs without a problem. So that's really neat.
Yeah. And I've had the same thing. I mean, like I only eat Debbie's eggs if I eat eggs at all now. Like, and it's very minimal because I've gone completely vegan and it's changed. It's just changed. Like Debbie was saying, I feel like it's made the biggest difference for me. And I'm sure it has to do with inflammation, but I trust what she feeds her chickens. So.
Well, I do want to say something because there's different types of vegans, right? You know, you can be a vegan and eat like a vegan hot dog on a standard like hot dog bun with ketchup and eat pretzels or whatever these other things are that are vegan. That is not going to be a diet that promotes health. That is a diet that's going to promote inflammation. So the fact that you are the type of vegan that's increased your intake of nutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants through the power of plants, I think is what's ultimately making you feel better. So you're doing a lot of really hard work. And so I commend you for that because it's not easy to eat 3 meals a day without, you know, meat, eggs, cheese.
Yeah, it is hard. And, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, Laura, because I've had a lot of people ask me, I usually say plant-based. I usually don't say vegan. I did a lot of research. My husband and I actually did before I went more plant-based. And, that was one thing that really stuck out to me. And it's the same, I think, with any of these, you know, restrictive diets, if you will. Like when I had to go gluten-free for my wheat allergy, you could be a really unhealthy gluten-free eater, you know, if you're doing a lot of processed stuff. So I do appreciate you bringing that up because it does take work, but now it's like, I know what I need to have stocked in my refrigerator so that I can like throw a smoothie together mid-morning that's easy, but it is filling and has a lot of plants. And it just, once you know, it is a lot easier to navigate.
It's really easy to, if you stay committed long enough to make it a habit, it's easy to get into a groove. And then you can have 5, 7, 10 meals that you turn to and eat those all the time. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to really search for recipes on the internet. If I wasn't writing meal plans for people, I would make the same probably 5 or 6 dishes every week because that's just how I am. I'm like, I have whatever produce I have from my garden. I'm either going to make a soup, a stir fry, a one pot meal, or I can't even think of anything else. And that's just kind of how it is, but it changes based on what I have from the garden or what meats I order. And so to me, that's plenty. So if you can nail down like whatever it is that you love, if you love soup, nail down a good soup. If you love tacos, nail down a good taco, and do that, because like making it a habit is going to make it to where you can do it long enough to notice a change. Now, you guys don't have a choice, right? You don't have a choice to like, you have to eat this way, otherwise you'll be really ill, right? But there are varying degrees of people with alpha-gal too. There's some people that are like, I have a client that said she had it a year ago and she still tests positive for it, but she can eat beef once in a while. And I'm like, what? So I don't know how that works, but you know, I say that you don't have a choice because you'll be sick, but maybe some people do, you know?
Well, it's so interesting. And I think part of living with it is seeing, you know, new information coming out all the time, right? Part of that is that they call it an anytime reaction versus an every time reaction.
Okay.
So I think sometimes people will think that they're okay eating something. They just don't happen to be reacting to it. You know, I've had this, well, I was diagnosed with this over 3 years ago at this point, and I've never reacted to pork fumes until like last weekend. So I think it's like constantly changing and constantly evolving, just in the same way that there are some people who will react to, say, beef, but not to dairy, you know?
Okay.
It's just,
it's
such a wide spectrum.
It is. It's such a tricky thing because the numbers don't correlate with reactions. You know, there's just a lot of nuances within this allergy for people. And I think for me, being on the really severe side, I knew at some point that I had to make even more of a shift to feel better. And when I started feeling better, there's no way you could pay me.
That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Once you get to the point where you've used food as medicine long enough to notice a difference, that the way that you feel becomes the motivation. There's no more like, oh, well, I want to lose weight, or whatever that other like diet culture tells us that we have to, whatever goals that diet culture tells us we have to have around food, you lose all of that. It's just like, I felt so good and now I feel like crap and I don't want to feel like this anymore. So you just instinctually turn to more nutritious foods. And that's not saying like 99.79% of the time. It's like majority of the time. And then if you want to go out for burger and fries with your friends, you go out for burger and fries or whatever. And to me, that's what I want for everybody. I want people to turn to and crave food that suits their biological needs, and then be able to indulge in a positive, healthy way when they want to.
Oh, I think that's great. It's neat to hear you say that as someone who doesn't live with alpha-gal syndrome, but lives with something entirely different on a completely different health journey. We hear all the time people say, alpha-gal syndrome, you can't eat red meat. I would never give up bacon, or I would never give up a burger or a steak or something like that, or ice cream. And I'm thinking, then you didn't know how bad I felt before and how good I feel now. Because I actually, and I've said this multiple times, I have 2 shirts, not 1, but 2 that declare my love for bacon. And I haven't eaten it, right? Like I can't, but I don't.
You guys need my recipe for chicken bacon.
Ooh.
We do need that one. Have you tried that one, Candace? I haven't tried that
one. You have one
it's actually a custom recipe that I wrote for my client that has alpha-gal, but I'll give it to you guys because I love you guys.
Oh my gosh, that is so nice. My family would absolutely love you because I can't cook it in the house. I mean, I do turkey bacon, but you know, that's like womp womp a lot of times. So if you think of a mushroom bacon recipe.
Oh. Well, they have that carrot bacon recipe. Have you seen that? The vegan carrot recipe? I've never tried it.
Me either. So
I haven't seen it.
No, I agree with you. I think people that are like, oh, I could never do this and I could never do that, it's because they're not sick or they don't know they're sick. Most people don't even know. I didn't know that being in pain is not normal. Right. I should be able to wake up in the morning and be able to walk down the stairs of my house without pain. That is my goal on a daily basis. If I can wake up and walk down the stairs without pain in my feet, then I am doing it right. And that's my little barometer, my own little self barometer. So I can monitor, okay, maybe I had too much wine last night. I can't do that tomorrow,
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's important to like know that. So, thank you again for sharing that. Like you have to kind of know your body metrics and what is your tipping point, right? Like, I think it is really important for every person to get that comfortable with themselves so they know if they're going in the right direction or if they have to pivot in a way,
Yeah. It's one of my favorite things to teach inside the Flare Free Cooking Academy. I do these monthly mini trainings that are free for beginner, pro, and VIP members. And next month we're doing how to listen to your body and give it what it needs. It's based on my experience, the things that I've gone through. I've reversed leaky gut, candida, gut dysbiosis, adrenal fatigue, insulin resistance, debilitating symptoms of my rheumatoid arthritis, like not being able to walk. And there's one other thing I can't think of. So yeah, it's just based on my personal experience. Cause again, I'm not a doctor, but it's one of my favorite things to teach, because people, when I start listing off the symptoms I've dealt with, they're like, I have all of those. I'm like, I know it is not normal. It's not normal to be bloated and in pain at the end of the night. It's not normal to wake up in the middle of the night every night and have to go to the bathroom. That's a sign that your blood sugar is spiking in the middle of the night. How many of us wake up to go to the bathroom every single night? Our bladder is actually designed to hold whatever's in it for 8 hours plus. So like, yeah, it's really important to start to learn these cues and listen to them and honor them. I always say, listen to your body and give it what it needs. If it's more sleep, more water, more vegetables, whatever that may be. And in your case, more chicken bacon.
Clearly. No, I think that's so important to point out. Something that you said just really resonated with me, in that you don't know how bad you are until you start to feel better. And I think we have a tendency, and I'll even say, being women and moms, we have a tendency to put these things off on other reasons, to find other explanations for why we're feeling this way. I'm getting older. I've had a couple of babies. I'm running around all the time, so I'm tired all the time. When the truth is that so much of that is not the root cause of why we're feeling bad. And then once you figure out, how you can adjust your lifestyle and diet to make you feel better, and you start to feel better on a regular basis, there's nothing that could convince me to go back. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. And that's why talks like this are so important, and social media is so important, because how many of us went into the doctor? I mean, even when I had insulin resistance, my doctor did all the tests. She looked at me like I was crazy and sent me out the door like, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. I was like 30 pounds overweight, active, eating right, falling asleep during, like yawning throughout workouts, having to nap every single day, falling asleep at the wheel after eating, fast food or anything that was carb heavy while driving. Like, how many of us go to the doctor and the doctor tells us, well, you just need to manage your stress, or, it's whatever. Yeah. And they completely disregard the fact that there's something on a biological level that's not right. It's out of balance. Okay. So if we're not talking about it and your doctor's not talking about it, how is anybody supposed to know?
Right.
That's right. And, Candace and I, we've both been suffering individually for, 15 years or more with alpha-gal, we assume, not having any idea, right? Like, that's just the way we felt. And
I thought it was like just digestive issues or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yes. IBS, right? You get that diagnosis too. And doctor after doctor and specialist after specialist would just say, there's nothing wrong with you. And, and I would quit. You start to hear that enough and you think that there's something wrong in your head. Right. And so, right. So I think that is so valuable that you're saying that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it is so important. I think even when you get exhausted, you have to keep being your own advocate until you get the help that you need, be it in your medical provider or on your own terms. If you make the shift in your diet, or, I think I even reverse it back a little bit. And I think about, had I not been in the mindset that I was in initially, and I was at a really low, like it was really hard, literally waking up overnight to not being able to like do anything for myself. But I had done previous mindset work like years before that with, reading Brene Brown's books and like I just look back and I'm like, had I not done that first, I don't know that I would have stepped into allowing myself to embrace reinvention or embrace another layer, because I was already wheat free for 12 plus years, another layer of, restriction. And I'm saying kind of in quotes, but like, so do you see that with your like flare free clients, that you have to kind of help them with that mindset shift initially?
90% of my work is mind shift work. It's all about mindset, because I want to touch on two things really quick and then I'll get back to mindset. Number one, when I was going through adrenal fatigue, and I have a great integrative doctor, she gave me a packet, was like, do this stuff, take your herbs, take your topical progesterone. She sent me on my way. I was like, this is not enough. I knew that there was something more that I could do. So I went to my public library and I took out every single book that they had on how to balance your hormones naturally. And I found Dr. Amy Myers. She's incredible. And she said in the book, and it's something I still say, and it makes me emotional, because you don't hear this from people, let alone doctors or professionals in the medical world.
Right.
She said, you know your body better than any doctor ever will. So you have to be your own advocate. If your doctor doesn't believe that something's wrong with you, go get another doctor and another doctor and another doctor. And so that's what I did. And coming back to the mindset stuff, what I was thinking about as you were telling that story about you, I was thinking, it's one thing to identify what's wrong with you. It's a whole nother thing to have the frame of mind and the strength and the courage and the determination to actually try to fix it. Because a lot of times we're doing it alone. If you're the only one in your house that's sick, how are you going to get empathy and sympathy from other people that don't feel sick after everything that they eat?
Right.
People that don't have to nap every single day in the middle of the day, and you don't want to be the person always talking about what's wrong with you, because that can take a toll on your marriage, on your friendships, all that stuff. So we tend to keep it to ourselves. At least I did. And so it's lonely and it takes literally saying, I'm worth it. I deserve to feel better. I want to live a long, happy, healthy, vibrant life. I don't want to feel like I'm 60 when I'm 35.
Right.
I should be able to go to work, take my kid to school, pick her up from school, go to the park afterwards and not be exhausted and still make dinner. You know what I mean? Like, these are basic things that I couldn't do a year ago.
Yes. Yeah. And I think Candace and I both understand that. And that is such an important message to get to people. Two things. I mean, both, first, that this can be so lonely. I think we maybe hear that more than anything else. I feel so alone. And Candace and I, our last episode of the podcast actually was talking about how we consider each other sort of our support. Like, that's what got us to the point where we are today, because we had each other to go through this. I think it would have taken a lot longer if we hadn't. We've learned from each other. We've supported each other. We've gotten in each other's faces and said, no, that's not true. Find another doctor, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other point that I wanted to just really emphasize that you made, is that we all deserve medical care that's going to get us to where we need to be, right? If your doctor is not listening to you, if your doctor is not willing to explore new or different things, find another doctor.
And it takes time. I mean, I went through that myself, and it took me a solid 2 years to find my team of providers. And I got super emotional hearing those exact words, Laura, from an ER doctor who was like, why did you not epi yourself?
Wow.
You know your body better than anyone. What can I do for you? I mean, I literally started bawling when he left the room, and I looked at my husband. I was a birth doula for 8 years. And I was like, that man was an OB. He had to have been an OB at one point, because he just had this like compassionate, I had never been spoken to that way before, and it's
so easy for doctors to feel like they are, I don't want to say omnipotent, but you know what I mean? Like, they know everything about everything, and they can look at a patient and know exactly what's going on with them. And then they're out the door in 10 minutes. But it's like, I want to tell you my health history so you can connect the dots. Like I've been connecting the dots, but I'm at a point where I don't know where else to go from here. And I need help with that. Yeah. And so, but it's really hard because the good doctors are hard to find. They have waiting lists. They don't take insurance. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Regarding the Flair Free Cooking Academy members, I wanted to say before I forget, it's most of my job is teaching people the mindset stuff, to encourage them to take the leap, to invest in themselves, to invest in their health, and to teach them that there's no food. It doesn't matter what food it is. There is no food. I'm talking pizza in Italy. It does not taste better than the way that I feel right now. Nothing tastes better than the way that healthy feels. So once you can get to that point where you mourn the loss of the things you can no longer eat, you embrace the new foods that you're now eating, and you understand that going back to eating the old stuff is just going to land you in a place that you don't want to be anymore, then change is inevitable.
It is. And, I've seen that firsthand, like not only through my journey, but my husband actually went plant-based with me in support of me. And he has felt better than he has in years. It's just so interesting once you, like you were saying, if you can just embrace it. And we made a commitment to do it for 2 weeks. That was our like short-term goal. And we were like, if it's not working in 2 weeks, then we're done. Mm-hmm. But now we're in it a year and a half.
Wow.
A year and a half later. Yeah.
That's awesome. I hear that a lot from a lot of my my personal holistic chef clients. I go to their homes, I cook for them, stock their fridge for the week, and then I leave. And dads get to eat this food. Most of the moms have autoimmune conditions, or maybe some of the kids do. But then I always hear from the wives, my husband's clothes are fitting better. His trainer is talking about how less bloated he looks, and he's doing like feeling more energetic and stuff. And I'm like, go figure. People don't know what good feels like, because we just think that this is what aging is or whatever, like you had said earlier.
Right. I just have chills since you said, I scribbled it down really fast. You said nothing tastes better than the way that I feel. That is so awesome. So Candace and I, we love music. It's something that we both enjoy. We both feel it very spiritually and deeply. And it's something that we don't react to, right? So we both still find a lot of pleasure in that. We don't have to replace it or reinvent it with anything.
Alpha-Gal safe.
That's great. If music is out, I guess as long as it's not live music at like a cookout or something. But what I'd like to know is there a song for you, either in this moment or for all time, it doesn't matter, just a song that brings you joy? Because we are constantly looking for the joy in our lives, because we do feel like we have to give up a lot, right? And you do mourn it, and you should grieve it before you let it go, right? But now we're trying to find all the ways we can bring this joy back. So I'm wondering if there's a song for you that brings you joy.
Listen, I am an avid music listener. Music has saved my life, but I just recently went to the Lizzo concert on Sunday, so
what?
Let's say it. Yes.
Out of here.
Yes.
Was that amazing?
Oh my God. Talk about joy. Like, wow. That was just my friend that I was with. She said the energy that's in this room could fix the world. Like, that's just how it was. It was amazing.
I have like cold chills from head to toe right now.
I do too.
Like, I have to say, I did not appreciate Lizzo enough until I watched her interview with David Letterman. He did like a series on Netflix of My Guest Needs No Introduction or something.
Yeah.
And then I heard her talk on NPR where she spoke about being asked what she loved most about herself. And she started crying. She couldn't answer. And she wrote the song, My Skin. Did she sing that song?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ugh. I love her. I would, Lizzo, if you ever listen to this podcast.
So I don't have one song, but I have all Lizzo songs. That's my answer.
We'll take it.
She is just, to me, like the ultimate hype girl. She's all about female empowerment, and owning your body and the skin that you're in. And I think it's all just such a message that we don't hear enough of as women, and something that's definitely, needed in this world. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And she's a good person. Like, she's a good human. I remember seeing on Twitter when people made a comment about, there was an issue with one of the lyrics in one of her songs, and she immediately took that back, right? She was like, I don't want to offend anybody. I just remove it. Yeah. I love that about her.
Yeah.
So good answer.
I want to hear more about this concert too.
Oh my gosh. It was so amazing. I mean, I took like 1,000 videos. This is like so incredible. Gosh. Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Like, got on FaceTime with one of the people in the crowd and called her sister on FaceTime. She brought up somebody whose birthday it was. I mean, it was just an amazing show.
Oh, love a good concert. I mean, that's so healing in itself, right? Like, if you do embrace music, and I can't imagine.
It's like being in a room of people that all like the same music as you and singing it together. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I feel like we could talk for like hours, and I'm just putting this out there. We would love to do another cooking class with you.
Yes. I've actually been thinking about bringing back What's Cooking Wednesday. I haven't had the time to do it recently, but I was thinking maybe once a month.
Yeah. Let us know. We would love to cook with you again. It was so much fun. And
really
we are so appreciative for all of your wisdom, your vulnerability. Thank you so much for sharing all of your insight. And we cannot wait to talk to you again soon.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on In the Tall Grass. Visit us at 2alphagals.com. That's TWOalphagals.com. Or you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at 2alphagals. If you enjoyed listening, please leave a review and help us grow this community.
We're all faced with obstacles on our journey, whether it be food allergies or tick-borne diseases. You might outgrow the reactions, but you won't outgrow the person you become. Ticks suck, but life doesn't have to.